The morning fog rolled gently over the coastal town of Brighton, painting the harbor with silver light. Seagulls called from the docks, and the town began to stir with the sound of fishing boats and merchants opening their shops. Near the town square, a small cottage with flower boxes stood proud. This was the home of Thomas, the skilled weaver, and his only daughter, Maya. Maya's life started with both sorrow and promise. Her mother passed away on the day of her birth. The townspeople whispered sadly, "How tragic that a child enters the world just as the mother departs." But Thomas refused to surrender to grief. He cradled the tiny infant close, wiped her tears and whispered, "You are my sunshine, Maya. I will raise you with these two hands. You will be strong." From that moment forward, father and daughter became one. Maya grew up in the weaving workshop. At first, she was too small to operate the loom, so she followed Thomas around carrying small baskets of colored thread. She would sing cheerfully, creating melodies to lift her father's spirits. "Father, the cloth will shine, the patterns will dance, our work will glow under the morning light so bright." Thomas would chuckle at her innocent songs, pat her head gently, and say, "My daughter, your voice is more beautiful than any music box." By age 10, Maya was working like an adult. She sorted threads, prepared dyes, swept the workshop, and cooked meals. She did all this without complaining. Her beauty began to emerge early. Her skin was fair and smooth. Her eyes sparkled like the sea under sunlight, and her smile brought comfort to all who saw it. The young men in town noticed her. Some would pass by the workshop, pretending to need fabric repairs just to greet her. Others would linger near the market square, waiting for the moment she came to sell her father's woven goods. But Maya would only smile politely and continue with her work. When she reached 21, suitors began arriving at Thomas's door. Some came with gifts of wine and cheese. Others came with baskets of bread and fine chocolates. The town elders would whisper, "Maya is truly exceptional. Whoever marries her will be fortunate indeed." But each time, Maya shook her head gently. "Father," she would say, "I am not ready. My heart doesn't feel what it should feel." Thomas, though puzzled, never pressured her. He loved his daughter too deeply. But the townspeople began to talk. In the evening, when women gathered at the market, their voices rose with speculation. Why is Maya refusing marriage? Is she waiting for nobility? Beauty without a husband is beauty wasted. Perhaps she's too particular. They laughed, shook their heads, and carried the gossip through town. Maya ignored them. Her heart yearned for authentic love, not just any arrangement. One bustling market day, fate brought something unexpected. The town square was filled with activity. Merchants calling out prices, women negotiating deals, children running between stalls. Maya was arranging hand-woven scarves on a wooden display table. She wore a simple dress and her hair was braided neatly. Her face glowed even without cosmetics. That same day, a successful man named David entered town. He was a software entrepreneur from London. He had come to scout locations for a retreat center. Tall, confident, and dressed in a crisp blue shirt, David carried himself with quiet authority. But when his eyes found Maya, something within him paused. She was unlike the women he encountered in the city. She was genuine, elegant, and radiated peaceful strength. He watched as she smiled at an elderly woman who couldn't afford to purchase a scarf. Maya pressed the item into the woman's hands and said softly, "Please take it, grandmother. Wrap yourself warm tonight." David's heart softened. He asked a nearby merchant, "Who is that young woman?" The man replied, "That is Maya, daughter of Thomas the weaver. She is beautiful and hard-working, but she has turned down every suitor in this town." David smiled quietly to himself. "Perhaps she has been waiting for someone like me." Days passed. David found reasons to visit the workshop where Thomas and Maya worked. Initially, Maya was reserved around him. She had encountered wealthy men before, arrogant and self-centered. But David was different. He joined them in the workshop, his hands unafraid to handle the threads and wool. He helped Thomas carry heavy bolts of fabric. He laughed genuinely, listened attentively, and spoke kindly. Maya's heart, which had always been guarded, began to open gradually. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with pink and gold, David turned to her. "Maya, from the first day I saw you, I knew you were special. Your kindness outshines your beauty. Will you allow me to walk beside you through life?" Maya's heart raced. She lowered her eyes shyly. For the first time, she smiled at a suitor with genuine warmth. That night she whispered to her father, "Papa, I think I have found the one." If you're enjoying Maya's journey, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Chapter 2 coming next. The wedding was magnificent. Musicians played through the streets. Women danced with ribbons streaming from their hands. Children clapped and sang. Town elders raised their glasses and blessed the union. The entire town celebrated for Maya. Their treasure had finally found love. She followed David to London, her heart brimming with dreams. The apartment was spacious, the car luxurious, the wardrobe expensive. At first, life seemed like a dream come true. David cherished her, and Maya believed happiness had finally made its home with her. But 3 years passed, and no sound of a baby's cry was heard. Maya's smile began to fade slowly. She and David visited specialists, prayed at churches, and tried every medical procedure available. Each time the doctor delivered disappointing news, her heart fractured a little more. David tried to remain strong. He held her hand and said, "Don't weep, my love. Children will come. I married you for who you are, not for what you can provide." But not everyone shared his perspective. His family began to turn hostile toward Maya. One afternoon, his mother shouted, "What kind of woman are you? 3 years and not even 1 pregnancy. Are you here to drain my son's resources? You are a curse to this family." His sisters joined in the cruelty. They called her barren, worthless, and inadequate. Sometimes they excluded her from family gatherings, sometimes they made cruel remarks within her hearing, and sometimes they spread vicious rumors in their social circles. Maya wept alone at night, her tears soaking the pillow. She remembered her peaceful coastal town and the workshop where life was simple and full of love. She wished she could escape back into her father's protective embrace. By the 4th year, her spirit was nearly broken. But then one day, her father sent her an urgent message. "My daughter, come home. There are things that need addressing." Maya packed her bag with trembling hands. Hope and fear battled within her heart as she prepared to return to the town that had once held all her joy. The train journey back to Brighton felt endless for Maya. She sat quietly by the window, watching as fields and forests passed by. Her heart was heavy with pain. Yet somewhere deep inside, a small flame of hope refused to be extinguished. Beside her sat her cousin Emma, a spirited young woman of 18 who always managed to find humor, even in difficult moments. Emma leaned close and whispered, "Cousin Maya, when we get to Brighton, you must try the new bakery's chocolate croissants. If you taste them, you'll forget your troubles." Maya smiled weakly. "Emma, even if I ate a bakery full of croissants, would that give me a child?" Emma pouted, then laughed suddenly. "You never know. Maybe croissants are the answer. You've tried doctors and specialists. Why not croissants?" For the first time in weeks, Maya laughed softly. It was a fragile laugh, but it carried warmth. When they finally reached Brighton, Thomas was waiting at the train station. His beard had grown grayer and his hands more weathered from his craft, but his eyes still held the same love. He embraced his daughter tightly as though he would never release her. "My child," he said, "do not cry anymore. The answers you seek are closer than you think." That night, the 3 of them sat in the garden under the starlight. The crickets chirped and moths danced around the lanterns. Thomas's expression was serious. "Tomorrow," he said, "we will visit Elder Margaret. She is old, but her wisdom runs deep. She will tell us what the doctors cannot." The next morning, the journey to Elder Margaret's cottage was quiet. The cottage stood at the edge of town, surrounded by ancient oak trees. Wind chimes hung from the porch and a faint scent of herbal tea filled the air. Inside, Elder Margaret sat in a rocking chair. Her back was curved with age, her eyes pale, but her voice was clear as a bell. She looked at Maya and spoke before introductions could be made. "You have been weeping. Your womb is blocked not by medicine, not by disease, but by your own past actions." Maya's heart pounded. "My own actions? What have I done?" The old woman's voice was steady. "Years ago, when you were young, your anger controlled you. You buried a mother hen and her chick alive in the garden behind the workshop because they scattered your threadwork. You thought it was insignificant, but the energy of life remembers. You buried life in anger, and now life refuses to grow within you." Maya gasped, her hands shaking. Memories flooded back. She had been 12, exhausted from sorting threads in the summer heat. The hen and chick had scratched through her carefully organized spools. In her rage, she caught them and buried them in the dirt, ignoring their sounds. She had felt justified then, thinking it was a minor act. Now tears streamed down her face. "Oh no, I was just a child. I didn't understand." The elder shook her head. "The universe knows no age. Energy knows no excuse. What is done, but there is mercy. If you honor what you buried with anger, if you restore life with dignity, your womb will open again." Maya fell to her knees. "Please tell me what I must do." Elder Margaret leaned forward. "You must return to the same ground. You must prepare food, dance, sing, and bury a hen and chick properly as though you are honoring human souls. Only then will the blockage be cleared." The room was heavy with silence. Emma, always the talkative one, broke it suddenly. "So Maya must dance with chickens? This I have to see." Even Thomas chuckled softly, though the matter was grave. Maya wiped her tears and nodded firmly. "I will do it. I will do whatever it takes." The next day, the entire town gathered. Word had spread rapidly. Maya, the weaver's daughter who became a London wife, is performing a strange burial ceremony for chickens. People came out of curiosity. Some laughed, some shook their heads in disbelief. Elderly women muttered, "This is how karma works. What you do in secret will follow you until you make it right." Children ran around singing playful songs about Maya and chickens. Maya wore a white dress and simple jewelry. Her face was serious yet peaceful. A live hen and chick were placed before her, with bowls of grain and water prepared beside them. A local drummer began to beat slowly. Maya raised her voice and sang, "Forgive me, mother hen. Forgive me, little chick. I buried you with anger. I return you with peace. Forgive me. Forgive me. Let life come back to me." Tears ran down her cheeks as she danced slowly around the hen and chick. The townspeople clapped, some laughing at the unusual sight, others moved to respectful silence. Emma danced beside her, moving dramatically and making exaggerated expressions to lighten the atmosphere. Even the drummer laughed at Emma's antics, but the ceremony continued with reverence. Finally, Maya dug a small grave with her own hands in the same spot where, years ago, she had committed the act in anger. She placed the hen and chick gently inside, covering them with soil while singing the final verse of her song. The drumming grew louder, the women called out blessings, and the men nodded in approval. When it was complete, Maya felt something release from her chest as though a heavy weight had rolled away. For the first time in years, she felt genuinely free. That night, she slept deeply without nightmares of sorrow. She returned to London, carrying peace in her heart. Not even a month passed before she noticed changes in her body. Her energy shifted, her appetite changed, and her heart carried a secret joy she was afraid to speak aloud. The doctor confirmed it. She was pregnant. When David heard the news, he fell to his knees and wept with happiness. "My love, you have given me the greatest gift. You are my treasure forever." His mother, who had been so cruel, came to Maya with tears streaming down her face. "Forgive me, my daughter. I was blinded by bitterness and impatience. You are more than a blessing to our family." His sisters, who had mocked her, approached with heads bowed. "We are so sorry, Maya. We judged you unfairly. Please forgive us." Maya forgave them. Her heart was too full of joy to harbor resentment. Months later, Maya gave birth. Not to one child, not two, but 4 sets of twins, 8 strong, healthy babies. The hospital staff gasped in amazement, calling it a medical miracle. News spread across London and even reached Brighton. The family who had tormented her now rushed to help, begging for her forgiveness daily. David's mother became her devoted helper, caring for the babies with grandmother's love. The house that had once echoed with Maya's tears now rang with the laughter and cries of 8 children. Joy replaced sorrow in every corner. Maya and David raised their children with love, teaching them patience, kindness, and respect for all living things. Back in Brighton, her father Thomas danced with pride, telling anyone who would listen, "This is my daughter Maya, the one who faced darkness and emerged victorious." The townspeople who once gossiped now used her story as a teaching for their children. Never harm life in anger, for anger plants seeds that can poison your future. But humility and respect can restore what was lost. 8 children in one household created beautiful chaos. Maya and David's home transformed into a place of constant activity. Feeding schedules, diaper changes, lullabies, and laughter that never seemed to end. The twins were named Hope and Grace, Faith and Joy, Peace and Love, Courage and Wisdom. Each name carried meaning, a reminder of the journey their mother had traveled to bring them into the world. As the children grew from infants to toddlers, Maya noticed something remarkable. Each child possessed a gentle spirit toward animals. They would sit quietly watching birds, speak softly to neighborhood cats, and handle insects with careful hands. One afternoon, when the twins were about 3 years old, young Hope found a wounded sparrow in the garden. Instead of frightening it, she called softly, "Mama, come help. The little bird is hurt." Maya knelt beside her daughter, her heart swelling. Together, they created a small box with soft cloth, gave the bird water, and placed it in a safe spot. 4 days, Hope checked on the bird until it was strong enough to fly away. "Mama," Hope asked, watching the sparrow disappear into the sky, "why do we help small things?" Maya pulled her daughter close. "Because every life matters, sweetheart. What we give to the world comes back to us. Kindness to the smallest creature honors all of creation." David watched these moments with deep satisfaction. The woman he had married, who had endured so much pain and ridicule, was now raising 8 children with wisdom and grace. His family, who had once been her tormentors, had become her greatest supporters. His mother, in particular, seemed transformed. She would often pull Maya aside and say, "I don't know how you forgave us. If I were you, I would have never spoken to us again." Maya would smile gently. "Holding anger would have kept me in chains. Forgiveness set me free." The story of Maya's ceremony in Brighton and the miraculous birth of 8 children spread beyond their immediate circles. Journalists wanted to interview her. Medical professionals wanted to study her case. But Maya declined most requests, preferring to live quietly and focus on her family. However, she did agree to speak at a women's gathering in Brighton when Elder Margaret personally requested it. The event was held in the town hall, and women from surrounding areas came to hear her. Maya stood before the crowd, no longer the shy young weaver's daughter, but a confident woman who had walked through fire and emerged stronger. "I stand before you not as someone special," she began, "but as someone who learned a hard lesson about actions and consequences. When I was 12, I made a choice in anger. I didn't think it mattered because it involved creatures I considered insignificant. But I learned that nothing is insignificant. Every action carries weight. Every choice creates ripples." The room was silent, every woman leaning forward to hear. "For years, I suffered. I was mocked, shamed, and broken. But the suffering led me back to truth. It led me to humility. And humility opened the door to healing. An older woman in the audience raised her hand. But how did you know the ceremony would work? Weren't you afraid it was just superstition? Maya nodded thoughtfully. I was afraid. I was desperate. But I had tried everything else. Sometimes the answers we seek aren't in modern medicine or technology. Sometimes they're in ancient wisdom, in honoring the spiritual dimension of life that we often forget exists. Another woman asked, what about people who don't believe in such things? What if someone thinks this is all coincidence? Maya smiled. Everyone is free to believe what they choose. I can only share my experience. All I know is that when I honored what I had dishonored, when I gave respect where I had given cruelty, something shifted. Whether you call it spiritual law, karma, or natural justice, something real happened. Emma, sitting in the front row, called out, and now she has 8 children. 8. I can barely handle my cat. The room erupted in laughter, the tension breaking. Maya laughed too, grateful for her cousin's ability to lighten heavy moments. After the talk, women lined up to speak with Maya privately. Some shared their own stories of barrenness, loss, and pain. Others confessed past actions they regretted. Maya listened to each one, offering no judgment, only compassion. One young woman whispered, I did something terrible when I was young. I hurt someone badly. Do you think I can ever be forgiven? Maya took her hands. I believe that when we truly acknowledge our wrongs, when we do what we can to make amends, and when we change our ways, healing is possible. Not just for others, but for ourselves. As Maya traveled back to London that evening, she reflected on how far she had come. The girl who had buried life in anger had become a woman who celebrated life in all its forms. 10 years passed like water flowing through streams, constant, changing, beautiful. Maya and David's 8 children grew into remarkable young people. They attended good schools, participated in community service, and carried themselves with unusual maturity for their ages. But what marked them most distinctly was their compassion. Teachers would report how Hope defended bullied classmates. Faith started a school club to collect supplies for animal shelters. Peace meditated conflict between fighting students. Wisdom tutored struggling classmates without being asked. David would shake his head in wonder. How did we raise such good children? Maya would smile knowingly. They came from a place of redemption. They carry the lesson in their very existence. Thomas, now in his 70s, visited from Brighton regularly. He would sit in the garden, surrounded by his grandchildren, telling stories of the old days in the weaving workshop. Your mother, he would say, was my entire world after your grandmother passed. She was strong even when she was small. And look at her now, the strongest woman I know. One particular afternoon, as the family gathered for Sunday dinner, young Wisdom asked a question that hushed the table. Mama, why do people say we're a miracle family? Maya glanced at David, then back at her children. They were 13 now, old enough to understand. Come, she said, let me tell you a story. She recounted everything, her childhood in Brighton, her work in the weaving workshop, her anger at the hen and chick, her years of barrenness, the cruel treatment from David's family, the visit to Elder Margaret, the ceremony, and the miraculous pregnancy. The children listened with wide eyes. When she finished, tears streamed down several faces. Grace spoke first. Mama, you mean we're here because you made things right? Yes, Maya said softly. You're here because I learned that every life matters. That anger destroys, but humility and respect restore. Courage looked troubled. What if we make mistakes? What if we do something wrong? David leaned forward. Everyone makes mistakes. The question is what you do afterward. Do you acknowledge it? Do you make amends? Do you change? That's what your mother taught me, and that's what we'll teach you. The conversation opened a deeper connection in the family. The children began asking more questions about ethics, consequences, and responsibility. Sunday dinners became regular forums for discussing difficult topics. Maya watched this evolution with quiet satisfaction. The pain she had endured was becoming wisdom passed down to the next generation. One day, Maya received a call from Elder Margaret's daughter. The elder had passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 96. Maya wept. She immediately traveled to Brighton for the funeral, bringing all 8 children with her. At the service, Maya was asked to speak. She stood before the gathered mourners and said, "Elder Margaret saved my life. Not with medicine or money, but with truth. She saw what others couldn't see. She spoke what others wouldn't speak. Because of her wisdom, I have 8 beautiful children. Because of her courage to tell me an uncomfortable truth, my family exists." She paused, emotions rising. The greatest gift we can give each other is honest wisdom, even when it's difficult to hear. Elder Margaret gave me that gift. I will spend the rest of my life honoring it. After the funeral, Maya stood at Elder Margaret's grave with her children around her. "See this woman," she said to them. "She changed our entire family's destiny. Remember her. Remember that wisdom often comes from unexpected sources. Stay humble enough to receive it." Years continued to pass. The children grew into adults, each pursuing paths that reflected the values they'd been taught. Hope became a veterinarian. Faith worked in wildlife conservation. Peace became a counselor for troubled youth. Joy taught kindergarten. Love became a nurse. Courage joined humanitarian relief work. Grace worked in sustainable agriculture. Wisdom became a psychologist. Maya and David watched with pride as their children spread goodness wherever they went. One evening, sitting on their balcony overlooking London's lights, David took Maya's hand. "Do you ever regret anything?" he asked. Maya thought carefully. "I regret that I caused suffering to those chickens. I regret the pain I experienced afterward. But I don't regret the journey. It taught me things I couldn't have learned any other way. It made me who I am. It gave us these extraordinary children." David squeezed her hand. "You're the strongest person I know." "Not strong," Maya corrected gently. "Just willing to learn. Willing to change. Willing to humble myself. That's different from strength. That's wisdom." Thomas passed away peacefully at 85, surrounded by his daughter and grandchildren. His last words were, "Maya, my sunshine. You made every struggle worthwhile. You are my greatest creation." At his funeral, Maya placed one of his woven scarves in his casket, the first one they'd made together when she was young. "Thank you, Papa," she whispered, "for never giving up on me. For loving me through everything." Now in her 50s, Maya occasionally returns to Brighton. She visits Elder Margaret's grave, her father's grave, and the spot where she performed the ceremony decades ago. Young people in town recognize her. They've heard the stories. They approach her with questions about life, regret, and redemption. Maya always takes time to listen, to share, to encourage. "Never underestimate the importance of your actions," she tells them. "What seems small may be significant. What seems insignificant may be profound. Treat all life with respect. When you make mistakes, and you will, have the courage to acknowledge them and make amends. That's not weakness. That's the highest strength." The story of the weaver's daughter who buried chickens in anger and later gave birth to 8 children has become folklore in Brighton and beyond. Some dismiss it as myth. Others embrace it as truth. But those who know Maya personally understand it's simply her life. Complicated, painful, miraculous, and ultimately redemptive. Emma, now married with children of her own, still jokes about the ceremony. "My cousin danced with chickens and got 8 babies. I danced at my wedding and got 2. I think I should have danced with chickens." Maya laughs at Emma's humor, grateful for the cousin who lightened her darkest days. As she sits in her London home, surrounded by photographs of her children, grandchildren beginning to arrive, and memories of her father and Elder Margaret, Maya reflects on her journey. She thinks about the angry 12-year-old who buried life in frustration, the young woman who suffered years of barrenness and shame, the desperate daughter who returned home seeking answers, the humbled woman who danced and sang over a grave, the mother who received 8 miraculous blessings. All of it, every moment, every tear, every joy, led to this. And in the end, Maya understands what Elder Margaret knew all along. Life gives us exactly what we need to learn what we need to know. Sometimes the lesson comes wrapped in pain. Sometimes in joy. But always in love. Always in love. The end. Final reflection. Have you ever done something in anger, thinking it was insignificant, only to realize later it carried great consequences? Moral lessons. Every action we take carries weight, no matter how small it seems. Anger may feel justified in the moment, but it plants seeds that can damage our future. Respect all forms of life, because what we give to the world returns to us. Patience, humility, and forgiveness open doors that anger and pride keep locked. It's never too late to make amends and change course. True strength lies not in power, but in the courage to admit fault and seek restoration. Thank you for reading Maya's complete journey. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear this message today. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful stories. What lesson from Maya's story resonated most with you? Leave a comment below. We read every single one. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our next powerful story. See you in the next video.